Emily stood in her bathroom holding her 7th negative pregnancy test in 3 years. And this time, something inside her simply stopped fighting. She didn't cry the way she used to. She didn't fall to her knees the way she had after the first few losses. She just stared at that single line in the little plastic window, set it down quietly on the counter, and walked into her bedroom, closed the door, and said out loud to an empty room, "I'm done. I can't do this anymore." Not just done with trying, done praying about it, done asking God for something he clearly, in her mind, had already decided not to give her. That night, lying in the dark next to her husband, who had long since fallen asleep, Emily whispered one final, exhausted prayer, more of a surrender than a request. And what happened over the following weeks left her stunned, humbled, and forever changed. This is Emily's story. Emily and her husband, Chris, had been trying to start a family for 3 years. What began as hopeful excitement in their first year of marriage slowly transformed into a grueling, heartbreaking journey neither of them had been prepared for. Month after month, the same disappointment. Then came the harder losses, 2 early miscarriages that gutted Emily in ways she still struggles to put into words. Each one arriving with just enough hope beforehand to make the loss cut even deeper. She threw herself into research, specialists, treatments, and procedures, each one carrying its own cost, both financial and emotional. She and Chris spent thousands of dollars on fertility treatments that came back, time after time, with the same devastating result. Doctors used careful, clinical language to explain that there was no clear medical reason she couldn't conceive, which somehow made the situation even harder to accept. There was no diagnosis to fight against, just an aching, unexplained emptiness that no treatment seemed able to fill. Emily watched, with a grief she was ashamed of but couldn't help, as friend after friend announced pregnancies around her. Baby showers became something she had to prepare herself for emotionally, sometimes declining invitations altogether, unable to sit in a room full of celebration while quietly falling apart inside. Her social media became a minefield of gender reveals and ultrasound pictures. She scrolled past with her stomach tightening every single time. Her faith, which had once felt like the steady center of her life, began to feel more like a wound that kept reopening. She had prayed so many prayers over those 3 years, so many hopeful, desperate, bargaining prayers, each one met with the same silence, the same negative test, the same quiet drive home from another appointment that hadn't gone the way she'd hoped. By the time she took that 7th test, something in her had simply run out. Not her desire to be a mother. That ache remained as strong as ever. What had run out was her ability to keep hoping, keep asking, keep opening herself up to disappointment after disappointment. She was exhausted in a way that went far deeper than her body. Her soul was tired. That night, lying awake next to Chris, staring at the ceiling in the dark, Emily didn't pray the way she usually did. She didn't ask God for a baby. She didn't bargain, or plead, or make promises about what she'd do differently if he would just say yes this one time. Instead, she simply whispered, "God, I don't have anything left to ask you for. I'm not even sure I believe you're going to give us a baby anymore. I'm just so tired. I don't know how to keep hoping. So I'm just going to give this to you. All of it, the wanting, the waiting, the pain. I can't carry it by myself anymore. If this isn't going to happen for us, I need you to help me be okay with that. And if it is, I need you to carry me until it does, because I don't have any strength left of my own." She says it wasn't a hopeful prayer. It was an exhausted one. A white flag, waved not in defeat exactly, but in complete surrender. For the first time in 3 years, she wasn't trying to convince God of anything. She was simply handing him the entire situation, walking away from the driver's seat she'd been gripping so tightly for so long. She fell asleep that night feeling strangely lighter, not because anything had changed, but because she had finally stopped carrying it entirely on her own. 3 weeks later, Emily noticed she felt unusually tired, more than her normal exhaustion. She almost didn't think anything of it. She'd learned, painfully, not to read into every small symptom anymore, not to let her hope get ahead of reality. But when a coworker offhandedly mentioned that Emily looked a little pale, something made her stop at the pharmacy on her way home. She sat in her car in the parking lot for almost 10 minutes before working up the courage to even take the test, bracing herself for the familiar single line. When she finally looked down, she blinked, certain she was misreading it. 2 lines. She took 2 more tests over the following hour, needing to be absolutely sure, refusing to let herself believe it until there was no room left for doubt. All 3 came back the same. When she called Chris and told him, both of them cried on the phone. neither able to fully process what they were hearing after 3 years of hoping for this exact moment. But the story doesn't end there. This pregnancy, unlike the two before it, continued. Week after week, appointment after appointment, the ultrasounds showed steady, healthy growth. Emily says every single appointment for the first several months, she braced herself for bad news out of pure habit, and every single time, the news was good. Their daughter, Grace, was born 8 months later, healthy and strong. Exactly 40 weeks after the night Emily had whispered that quiet, exhausted prayer of surrender. Emily doesn't try to explain the timing with anything other than simple, humbled gratitude. She had spent 3 years praying hopeful, desperate prayers for a baby. Prayers that had gone unanswered in the way she wanted. And then, the one night she finally stopped fighting, the one night she surrendered the entire situation instead of pleading for a specific outcome, everything changed. I don't understand exactly why it happened that way, Emily says. I'm not saying I finally said the magic words that unlocked it. I just know that the moment I stopped trying to control it and truly gave it to God, completely, without any conditions attached, that's when He moved. Grace is 2 years old now, a bright, giggling toddler who has become the absolute center of Emily and Chris's world. Emily says she still sometimes stands in the doorway of Grace's room at night, watching her sleep, overwhelmed all over again by how close she came to giving up entirely on the dream of being her mother. The 3 years of waiting changed Emily in ways she says she wouldn't trade, even knowing how painful they were. She understands grief differently now. She understands the kind of exhaustion that makes people want to walk away from their faith entirely. And she meets other women walking through infertility with a depth of compassion she couldn't have offered before living it herself. She volunteers now with a ministry at her church that supports women facing infertility and pregnancy loss, sitting with them in their own versions of that bathroom floor, that 7th negative test, that exhausted whispered surrender in the dark. She doesn't offer easy answers or promises that everyone's story will end the way hers did. She simply sits with them, the way she wishes someone had sat with her, reminding them that God is present even in the waiting, even in the silence, even when it feels like He's said no. I used to think faith meant never giving up, never running out of hope, Emily says. Now I understand it a little differently. Sometimes faith looks like giving up your grip on the outcome completely, and trusting God with what's left, even when you don't have any strength left to hope on your own. Maybe you're watching this today, and you know exactly what it feels like to reach the end of your own strength. Maybe you've been praying for something for so long, hoping so hard, being disappointed so many times, that you've reached the place Emily reached that night, not just tired of waiting, but tired of hoping at all. Emily's story is a gentle reminder that surrender is not the same as giving up on God. Sometimes it's actually the deepest form of trust we can offer Him, laying down our grip on how we think our story should go, and trusting Him with what's left, even when we have nothing left to offer but our exhaustion. You don't have to have a hopeful, faith-filled prayer left in you tonight. You don't have to pretend you're not exhausted, not disappointed, not questioning whether God is even listening anymore. You can simply be honest, the way Emily was honest, and hand Him the entire weight of what you're carrying, trusting that He is strong enough to carry it even when you are not. Your story is not over. Whatever you're waiting for tonight, whatever door still feels closed, whatever dream feels like it's slipping further away with each passing day, God has not forgotten you, and He has not stopped working. Even in the silence, even in the waiting, even on the night you finally say, I don't have any strength left, I'm giving this to you. Sometimes that surrendered whisper, spoken in complete exhaustion, becomes the very prayer heaven has been waiting to answer all along.